So, you know those legendary internet threads? The ones that start with maybe a head-scratching question and just, well, end somewhere brilliant.
Oh, yeah, definitely. The ones that kind of take on a life of their own.
Exactly. Well, you shared one with us today that fits the bill perfectly. We're doing a deep dive into this really memorable story from the Proxmox subreddit.
Ah, Proxmox. Good stuff.
Yeah. It's about this user, you anti-Western ideology, who, well, they took a leap of faith, or maybe just leaped without looking, straight into virtualization.
Okay, I'm intrigued already. Sounds like there's a story there.
There is. And your mission, really, if you're into tech at all, is to kind of get the key takeaways from this whole saga, especially around GPU pass-through and Proxmox.
All right, that's a popular topic. Can get complicated.
It can. But even if you've never touched Proxmox, this story, it has these broader lessons, about learning, tech. It's pretty relatable. And with me to unpack it all is our expert guide.
Happy to be here. Let's get into it.
Okay, so setting the scene. Our user, anti-Western ideology, basically kicks things off in this incredibly bold way.
How so?
They completely wiped their Windows 11 Pro system, gone, and installed Proxmox, just like that.
Wow. Okay, no safety net, huh?
None. Straight into the deep end. And their first question to the community, it was something like, hey guys, wiped W11, installed Proxmox. I just need to display it on the monitor for people walking by to see the camera feeds.
Okay. I see the disconnect starting already.
Right. The sheer wipe now, figure it out later energies. Well, it's something.
It really is. And what's fascinating right away is that clash. The user expecting, okay, new OS, it shows up on the screen, versus how Proxmox actually works.
Yeah.
And that's common, isn't it, in tech? What feels intuitive based on, like, your daily driver PC versus how these more specialized systems are actually designed.
Totally. So you, listening, might be thinking, well, why wouldn't it just pop up on the monitor? That's fair.
It is a fair question if you're coming from Windows or Mac OS.
Exactly. But Proxmox and systems like it, they're usually headless. Think of it like this powerful server brain, right? Designed mostly to be managed remotely.
Yeah, through a web browser on a different computer, typically.
Precisely. It's not really built for plugging in a monitor and getting a fancy graphical desktop like you're used to. Not for the main system, anyway.
A console you might see if you do plug in a monitor is usually just text-based for basic setup or emergencies, not for running apps graphically.
And someone in the thread, Omark45 guy, was pretty blunt about it. Said something like, this is Reddit, not Google, and VMs don't display the screen by default.
Ouch. A bit harsh maybe, but technically correct in that context. It highlights that initial misunderstanding.
It does. But this is where it gets really interesting, because that simple question, how do I see stuff? It's accidentally cracked open this whole discussion about PCIe pass-through, specifically GPU pass-through.
The holy grail for some home lab folks.
Right. So for anyone new to this, GPU pass-through is basically like giving a virtual machine direct, exclusive access to a physical graphics card in your computer.
Yeah, it's like saying to the VM, okay, this graphics card, it's all yours. The main Proxmox system won't touch it.
Exactly. As if it suddenly had its own dedicated hardware. And this is key for stuff like running demanding games in a VM.
Or video editing, CAD work.
Yeah.
Anything graphics intensive.
Or in this user's case, displaying that camera feed smoothly. As U70 pointed out in the thread, the trick was pass the GPU through to the Windows 11 virtual machine, then plug the monitor into that GPU.
Not into the motherboard's video output. That's the crucial difference.
And the thing is, this GPU pass-through stuff, it used to be really hard.
Oh, tell me about it. Historically, it was a nightmare. You were wrestling with IOMMU groups, kernel command lines, special configs.
And didn't NVIDIA actively block it on consumer cards for a while, that code 43 error?
Exactly. Code 43. The bane of many tinkerers. The drivers would just refuse to work in a VM unless you had one of their expensive Quadro or Tesla cards. It was a deliberate limitation.
Man, that sounds frustrating. But things have changed now, right? And this is the lottery win part.
Yeah, thankfully.
Right.
Around 2023, NVIDIA started easing up on those restrictions for their consumer GeForce cards. That was huge.
Okay.
And combine that with improvements in Linux itself, which Proxmox uses underneath, and in Proxmox's own tools, the whole process got way, way simpler.
So our user, Unite Western Ideology, decides to try this GPU pass-through thing.
Having just learned about it, presumably.
Pretty much. And their feedback. Quote, I did pass through about an hour ago and it worked flawlessly, keyboard and mouse too. The feed didn't show up until the NVIDIA driver was installing. Super easy. Thank you, kind sir.
Wait, seriously, first try, super easy.
That's what they said. And the Reddit community's reaction was basically disbelief. Like, hold on, you just stumbled into working GPU pass-through.
That is kind of like winning the lottery, especially given the history. It really shows how much more accessible this stuff has become.
It really does. What used to need tons of forum digging and config file editing is now, well, maybe not always super easy, but certainly much more doable.
It raises that interesting question, doesn't it?
Yeah.
How much of tech difficulty is just legacy knowledge based on how things used to be?
That's a great point. And this whole exchange, this simple question turning into surprise success, it made the thread kind of legendary on our Proxmox.
I can see why. It's a great story.
Yeah, people were chiming in saying things like, your experience makes me think Proxmox isn't that hard after all.
Which is great, layering the perceived barrier to entry.
Others were just amazed, like, he did it without even really knowing what he was doing. And you got those classic, sarcastic, super easy comments, too.
Of course. Gotta have those. It's like watching someone accidentally juggle chainsaws and somehow be fine.
Totally. It had all those elements, didn't it? Blind confidence, the initial confusion, the community helping out, that unexpected success, and a really satisfying ending. Someone even quoted, operator, main screen turn on.
Huh. Perfect. It
But
captures that moment of unexpected triumph.
it really does. And it even got people talking about, gatekeeping in tech communities.
Yeah, how sometimes the experts can unintentionally make things seem more intimidating than they need to be.
And just that thin line between, like, being completely lost and accidentally stumbling into brilliance.
It happens. So, okay, let's boil this down. What are the key takeaways for our listeners from this whole adventure?
Okay, first big one. GPU pass-through on Proxmox. It's way more approachable now in 2024 than it used to be. Much less scary.
Definitely. Modern hardware, modern Linux, modern Proxmox versions. They've smoothed out a lot of the really rough edges. We're talking more GUI options, less manual config hacking.
Good point. Second, don't write off newcomers. Just because someone doesn't use the perfect jargon doesn't mean they can't figure things out, especially with a bit of help.
Absolutely. Community support is huge, and sometimes approaching it fresh without preconceived notions of difficulty can actually help.
Third takeaway, Proxmox itself can be a seriously powerful tool for, like, a home setup, consolidating stuff.
Right, you could run your Plex server in one VM, maybe Pi-hole for ad blocking in another, a camera NVR like this user wanted, maybe even a Minecraft server for the kids, all in one box.
And GPU pass-through just unlocks more possibilities there, like a dedicated gaming VM or, well, displaying camera feeds.
That flexibility is really the appeal for many home lab enthusiasts.
And finally, maybe the most controversial takeaway, while generally not recommended.
Definitely add that caveat.
Yeah, wiping your drive without a plan is usually a bad idea, but sometimes just diving in can lead to these surprising successes.
It's the learn-by-doing approach, albeit maybe an extreme version here.
And the user's final update just seals it. Quote, "It works now, thank you, my brother. GPU pass-through, checkbox a few options, then install the NVIDIA drivers. As they installed, the feed was picked up by the monitor. My cameras now display like they did when I was on W11.
Achievement unlocked. GPU pass-through. Bonus level. Reddit legend.
Pretty much. It's kind of a cool contrast, isn't it, to all the talk about abstract cloud stuff. This is hands-on hardware, making things work, learning through trying.
It is a good reminder of that experimental tinkering spirit and the power of community helping someone figure it out, even after a slightly reckless start.
So yeah, wrapping up this deep dive, the big thing, GPU pass-through on Proxmox. Way easier than you might think based on old horror stories.
Don't be intimidated by the past.
Yeah.
And leverage those online communities. Ask questions, even the ones that seem basic.
Because you never know, right? It might lead to a really useful discussion or reveal things have gotten simpler. So here's that final thought for you listening. Is there some tech project you've been kind of putting off? Thinking it's just too complex, too fiddly?
We all have those projects on the back burner.
Maybe, just maybe, taking that leap, perhaps with a little more planning than our friend here.
Please, yes. A little planning,
Here?
backups.
Aha, yes, backups are good. But taking that step might lead to your own unexpected breakthrough. What VM lottery might you accidentally win?
Food for thought.
Definitely. Well, thanks for sharing this great source with us, and thanks everyone for joining the deep dive.
Always a pleasure. Keep those interesting finds coming.